The Copa Libertadores is one of the most prestigious club football competitions ever. If you don't know what it is, it's the Champions League of South America. I would argue that it's the second most prestigious club football competition in the world, only behind the actual UEFA Champions League. But what if I told you it's broken, and somehow it's getting worse? Brazilians broke it, but it ain't really their fault. So today I want to dive into the details of why this is happening and how the Brazilians did it, along with a very serious discussion on whether or not it can be fixed. Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo and welcome to Chapéu Football, where we provide the best coverage of Brazilian football in English on YouTube, and I guess now also South American soccer. Oh boy, I just said the S word. Never say the S word on YouTube. People get pissed off. Soccer, football, call it whatever you want. And today I want to dive into and talk about how Brazilians are completely dominating club football in South America. Not national team, because Argentina has kind of dominated that lately, but club football, it's been all Brazil. What exactly is happening, why it's happening, and the future outlook. With that said, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think on this topic? Do you think that Brazilian dominance will end within the next 5 years? Yes or no? I'll let you know my thoughts at the end of this video. In the meantime, subscribe. Help us hit 20,000 subscribers. We already surpassed 10. We're growing very fast thanks to you. And drop a like in this video because the more likes it gets, the more YouTube sends it to more people. All right, let's play the intro and start the episode. Okay, let's start by talking about how it used to be. And then we'll talk about the now. Brazil has been dominating the Libertadores lately, and we're going to talk about that very soon. But it wasn't always like that. From 1960 all the way till 1990, Brazil had won only 5 Copa Libertadores, while Argentina had won 15. And even Uruguay had more because Uruguayan clubs had won 8 total. You see that? Argentina had 3 times more titles of the Libertadores than Brazilian clubs, Argentina clubs, of course. And Uruguayan clubs that don't have a lot of money these days, and I don't think they did back then either, they had 8, while Brazil only had 5, all the way till 1990. Now, mind you, for those 3 decades that I mentioned, 1960s, 70s, 80s, Brazilian clubs sometimes wouldn't take the Libertadores seriously, or they wouldn't even play, due to finances and the calendar. Otherwise, it probably would have been way more balanced with Argentina. Now, from the 1990s to the 2000s, things started to change. And by 2009, Brazilian clubs had 13 Libertadores won, while Argentina had 22. So still a big gap. Brazilians started to take the Libertadores seriously in the 90s, but it was still very even with the Argentine clubs. It was very balanced. And occasionally, you would get a team from Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay that would win it. But most of those editions, and it still is to this day, it's usually between a Brazilian club and an Argentine club. Now let's fast forward to today. And we have Brazilian clubs with 25 trophies total in the Libertadores, if you count this edition, because the final is all Brazilian, right, between Palmeiras and Flamengo. And Argentine clubs also have 25 trophies. It's tied. And what's fascinating about this is that if you look at the projection, Brazil will surpass Argentina probably next year, because the past few seasons, it's been all Brazil. And the complete dominance started around 2019 when Flamengo defeated River Plate in the Libertadores final, but it didn't really get ugly until the post-COVID era, so from 2020 beyond. And by ugly, I mean for Los Hermanos, right? For the Brazilians, it's been awesome. They've been winning every single Libertadores since. Okay, so from 2019 till now, every single winner of the Copa Libertadores has been a Brazilian club. And 5 out of the 7 finals were all Brazilian clubs. So in 2019, we had Flamengo defeating River Plate. In 2020, we had an all-Brazilian final between Palmeiras and Santos, and Palmeiras won that one. In 2021, we had another all-Brazilian final between Palmeiras and Flamengo. Palmeiras won that edition. In 2022, we had another Brazilian final between Flamengo and Atlético Paranaense, with Flamengo winning the Libertadores. Then in 2023, we had Fluminense defeating Boca, which is an Argentine side. So finally, not 2 Brazilians in the final, even though it probably should have been Fluminense and Palmeiras. Boca got very lucky against Palmeiras in the semifinals. In 2024, we had Botafogo versus Atlético Mineiro, another Brazilian final, and Botafogo won that one. And then now, in 2025, Flamengo and Palmeiras meet again. So with the 2025 final, the 2025 final this year, Palmeiras or Flamengo will win. And then when it comes to total amount of trophies, Brazil will have 25 and Argentina will also have 25. Brazil has finally caught up. So over the past 7 years, we had 5 all-Brazilian finals, 7 Brazilian trophies. They won every single edition, and honestly, it's going to get worse. But I'll talk about that later in the video. And here's the thing that I find fascinating about Brazilian football at the club level when compared to like Argentina, and even when you compare Brazil to other leagues in the world. Brazil has more big clubs. Brazil has more good clubs. Brazil has more parity. It's more balanced. Let me explain. From 2000 till now, Argentina had 4 different teams win the Copa Libertadores. Boca Juniors, River Plate, of course, the big 2, Independiente, and San Lorenzo. While Brazil had 10 different clubs win it. Brazil has more competitive clubs, and that's why they have a Big 12. Not a Big 2, not a Big 3, not a Big 4. Brazil has a Big 12. And it makes domestic soccer, or the league, even stronger, one of the best in the world. While Argentina, at times, can be very top-heavy, right? Especially when it comes to River Plate and Boca Juniors. In most leagues in the world, at least the best leagues in the world, they're more like Argentina, where they'll have like 2 or 3 clubs that are very dominant. And of course, lately, Palmeiras and Flamengo have been quite dominant in South America and in Brazil. But Brazil does have a Big 12, and it's much more balanced than any of the top, let's say, 10 leagues in the world. I guess MLS would be very balanced as well, but MLS has parity by design. Brazil has parity by accident, chaos, whatever you want to call it. Why don't we talk about why is all of this that I just mentioned happening? Why is Brazil so dominant all of a sudden in South America at the club level, right? Especially when the national team is kind of in an all-time low. Okay, so what are the reasons? I was going through X, or Twitter, whatever the kids call it these days, and I saw a take from Nick Cantor, the son of the legendary Andres Cantor. Nick Cantor is an analyst and commentary guy here in the United States. And I saw his take about Mexican clubs, and I want to talk about it real quick. He essentially said that we should bring back the Liga MX, the Mexican clubs, to the Libertadores. That would solve the problem. Of course. Bring back the Mexican clubs, the clubs from the league that played like 18 to 19 Libertadores when the Brazilian clubs didn't have as much money as they have today. So they played during that era and they won 0 Libertadores. That will definitely solve the problem. Yeah, online sometimes you see a lot of idiotic takes like this one. And I'm not for censoring people, but I think we might have to start censoring a few guys. Yeah, maybe online censorship should happen because of takes like that. Okay, let's get serious. Why is this happening? And let me start by quoting Felipe Luis. He's a former player of Atletico Madrid, and he's the current coach of Flamengo, one of the biggest clubs in Brazil, one of the best clubs in Brazil right now. And this is what Felipe Luis had to say. It's thanks to economic power, no doubt about it. Better players, more chances to compete for titles. Today in Brazil, there are clubs with the same power as European clubs. We have players who have received offers for more money from European teams, and Flamengo managed to keep them. It doesn't guarantee winning, but with better players, you have more chances. So essentially what he's saying is that it all comes down to money, which is true. He is right, but he is wrong at the same time. There's more to it than just money, because if spending money was any guarantee of success, Manchester United would still be a powerhouse, and they're clearly not. So he's right, and I'm going to prove Felipe Luis right. We're going to show the facts and the data that Brazilian clubs have more money than any other team in South America these days, any other league. But that's not the only reason, and that's what I want to address. So the money gap that Felipe Luis talked about is accurate, and let's prove it. Right away, when we look at the value of each squad in all of the Americas, so North America, Central America, South America, so you count Mexico, US, Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, the top 20, we have 14 clubs from Brazil, 2 from Mexico, 1 from the United States, which is Inter Miami with Messi, and then 3 from Argentina. Then we have no other South American nation. All right, so just mostly Brazil and then 3 Argentina clubs. But from the 1st to the 13th team, we only have Brazilians from South America, and then there's like 1 Mexican club. Right there, you can see that the squads, the rosters of the South American teams, the most valuable ones, are pretty much all Brazilian. Like the top 12 are all Brazilian. Now let's look at this piece of data. How much the teams in CONMEBOL make in rewards if they win their domestic cup. So if you're from England, that would be the FA Cup. If you're from Brazil, it's the Copa do Brasil, the Brazilian Cup. So the winner of the Copa do Brasil, the Brazilian Cup, makes around $13.4 million if they win it. And then the second league, or the second cup in South America that makes the most money, is the Ecuadorian Cup, where the winner makes only $340,000. Do you guys see the gap right there? The Brazilian Cup winner makes $13.4 million. The Ecuadorian Cup winner makes $340,000. The Venezuelan is the third one, the third cup. I don't know how, but Venezuela is number 3 here. They make $300,000 if they win the Venezuelan Cup. Now, the other one that we have here is the Colombian one that makes $150,000, the winner. Paraguay and Uruguay are tied at $120,000 for the winner. And then Argentina, if you win the Argentine Cup, you make only $58,000. And that is bloody insane, right? Someone has to investigate the Argentine Federation, the FBI, the CIA. Someone has to look into that. Argentina has been milking Messi for over a decade, selling out stadiums, selling out jerseys, great TV deals, winning trophies. How is it that the Federation pays less than $60,000 to the winner of the Argentine Cup? It's ridiculous. I have a team in a tournament here in the US called TST, the soccer tournament. The winner of that tournament makes $1 million. And that's my team. How is it that the winner of the Argentine Cup makes like $60,000 for winning it? It's insane. Someone needs to investigate this federation. So as you can see, if you add up all other domestic cups in South America, all their rewards, it won't hit 10% of what the winner of the Brazilian Cup makes. It's insane. Also, did you know that the winner of the Argentine League makes around $500,000 in rewards, which is less than the winner of the second division in Brazil, which is around $600,000 to $700,000. You heard that right. If you win the Argentine League, you make less money in rewards than the winner of the second division in Brazil. And I know you may be saying, why are you picking on Argentina so much? Well, because technically they're the only ones that can end this Brazilian dominance. And because I really like picking on Argentina. I love it. Now keep in mind that it's not just rewards from the tournaments. Obviously that's more money, but the TV deals in Brazil are much larger. The sponsorships, like Palmeiras for example, they get $30 million on jersey sponsorships alone. And Flamengo, they get close to like $50 million in sponsorships. So it's not just the rewards from the tournaments. They make more money on sponsorships. They make more money on TV deals, ticket sales. Brazil is also a larger country and a larger economy than all other South American nations. So keep that in mind. Now let's quickly go through the salaries of the Brazilian clubs, how much they spend per year in salaries, and compare it to River Plate, which is the richest club in Argentina, and honestly, the richest club in South America outside of the Brazilians. And I'm gonna use the figures in Brazilian reais, so bear with me. This is what the club spent in salaries in 2024 in Brazil. Flamengo spent 524 million, Palmeiras 449, Corinthians 405 million, São Paulo 376 million, Fluminense 344 million, Red Bull Bragantino 312 million, Atlético Mineiro 300 million, Bahia 294 million, Internacional 256 million, and Grêmio spent 240 million. Now River Plate, again, the richest club in South America outside of Brazil, they spend around $40 million a year in salary, which is around 220 million reais, which means River Plate wouldn't even crack the top 10 salaries in Brazil. You heard that right. There are at least 10 clubs in Brazil that spend more money every year on salaries than River Plate, which is the richest club in South America outside of Brazil. Okay, so we have clearly proven that the money gap is real. Felipe Luis is right. There's a massive gap between how much money the Brazilian clubs make and how much they spend when compared to any other country in South America. But I told you earlier, it's not just about the money. The money matters, for sure, but it's not just the money. There's much more to it. Let me prove it. So in 2025, these are the top 5 clubs that spent the most money in transfers in South America. We had Palmeiras that spent $130 million, Botafogo that spent $116 million. Then the third club was actually River Plate. They spent $61 million. The fourth club was Flamengo. They spent $56 million in transfers, and they had a few free transfers here and there as well. Now, Boca Juniors, they spent $41 million. So out of the top 5 biggest spenders in transfers this season, 2 of them are from Argentina. Now, look, most of these clubs, or all of these clubs that I mentioned, they got some money or a boost from the Club World Cup money. But the point that I'm making here is that Boca and River, they spent a lot. River Plate even spent more money than the Libertadores finalist, Flamengo. And River Plate was knocked out in the quarterfinals of the Libertadores by Palmeiras. They lost in the group stage in the Club World Cup, and they haven't done well in the Argentine League. While Boca Juniors, they actually lost in the Libertadores qualifiers. They didn't even make it to the group stage of the Libertadores, and they lost in the group stage of the Club World Cup. So, along with having more money, the Brazilian clubs these days have more professionalism, good management, post-World Cup from the 2014 World Cup infrastructure. That comes a long way for the Brazilian clubs. Better stadiums, they make more money. And by all of that professionalism, I mean better management, better scouting, better coaching from foreigners that they bring in, right? Like Abel Ferreira, for example, Felipe Luis, that learned a lot of coaching from Europe. It's just much better. The management of Brazilian clubs, and honestly, surprisingly, even the federation compared to Argentina, is much better. Look at Palmeiras. They don't have a rich owner. It's a club owned by the socios, right? There's no SAFI from Palmeiras. There's no private ownership, but the club is very well managed. I visited Palmeiras, I believe in 2024, and I visited their training facilities. I met Abel Ferreira, I met Hendrick, Richard Hughes, many others. I think even Dudu was there. I met a lot of the employees, great employees. The infrastructure is incredible. It's insane. And there are more clubs in Brazil that have something similar. And look at this. Palmeiras also, like many other Brazilian clubs, they invested a lot in youth development and youth scouting. From 2015 till now, over the past 10 years, Palmeiras has generated close to 500 million euros, almost €500 million in player sales to Europe, transfers. And I'm using Palmeiras as an example because that's my club, so I know more about them, but that applies to many other teams in Brazil. Flamengo being another one of those. Good management, good scouting, good youth development, good sales, good deals, ticket sales, everything. Having money allows these clubs to have all of that, but they're doing the right job. When River Plate and Boca had the Club World Cup money to spend, they spent it. They spent it even more than Flamengo, but they didn't spend it wisely. So once again, it does come down to money, but it also comes down to how you work with that money. Oh, and if you want to know also more about the Brazilian League, we made an entire video breaking down of why they got so rich. We talked about the SAFI, which is private ownership of clubs. We talked about the betting companies. We talked about TV deals. So go check out that video. I'll probably put the link in the description. If not, just go check out some of our old videos about the Brazilian League and you'll know. I think the name is This League Will Be Better Than the Premier League because I had to make it clickbaity, but go check out that video and you'll learn everything that you need to know about the Brazilian League and why it's been growing so fast. Last but not least, let's talk about the future outlook. Will the Copa Libertadores be fixed? Yes or no? Why? When? The answer to that is, can it be fixed? No, I don't think so. I think it's going to get much worse. And if you look at all the other South American leagues, besides the Ecuadorian League, which has been getting better, not at the same rate as the Brazilian League, but the Ecuadorian League has been getting better, the other ones are getting worse. Argentina is getting worse. Colombia is getting worse. Uruguay has been bad for decades. While the Brazilian clubs, I don't think they've reached their potential yet. Once CBF fixes the calendar, they also detach themselves from the league and the clubs can manage that. For example, Todd Bowley, the owner of Chelsea, he wants to buy Santos. Santos. That has a legendary academy, amazing brand. Imagine if they inject money into Santos. That'll be another powerhouse in South America. Palmeiras, Flamengo will continue to be powerhouses. Vasco, if they get their act together. Fluminense is still strong. Cruzeiro, Atlético Mineiro, Internacional, Grêmio. I'm just telling you as it is, and this is not a Brazilian bias, it's going to get worse. Brazil will have more and more competitive clubs. They're going to buy up the best South American players. They're going to keep some of the best Brazilian players in the league. And their dominance will increase. It'll increase so bad that Brazil will continue to dominate the Libertadores and they'll start to dominate the Copa Suramericana, which is also the Europa League, which they've been doing well, but not dominating the Copa Suramericana. But that will happen. So I hate to be that guy to say it, but I don't think it's going to get better. And the Libertadores will more often look like a Brazilian Cup than a Continental Cup. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go and subscribe right now if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below as well on this topic. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with Felipe Luis? And do you think things will get better? Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.